I can't resist asking about innovation in finance. Over the last half century, it's a sector that's gone through several upheavals. Radical change. To go back to the time when you were born, there were 30,000 banks in the US. None of them were very, very large. A few New York banks were big. And now the top 20 banks account for almost everything. But the range of innovation in finance has been huge. And there's a debate in academic finance for sure about how much of this innovation is helpful to the markets versus how much actually creates instability.
Well, I have a very clear opinion on that. I think the early innovation that the Bank of America did under Giannini, where he helped all these immigrants with these loans, and of all kind, and he kind of knew which ones were good for it and which ones weren't. I think that was all to the good. That brought banking to and banking helped to a lot of people that deserved it. It helped the economy, it helped everybody. But once banking got so they wanted to be in soft white hands and make zillions as speculators, I don't think those developments have been a plus. In other words, I like banking when they're trying to avoid losses.
COVID has been extremely disruptive to American society and to the American economy. How do you think the economy is going to emerge over the next 12 months from this period of great difficulty? And how much of the change that we've seen start to happen is going to be persistent?
Well, my opinion on that is no better than anybody else's. But I think it's quite likely that a year from now, the worst of that will be very, very thoroughly behind us. It's amazing. I watched the polio get totally killed by the vaccinations. And I think they'll spread these vaccines over the world so fast it'll make your head swim. So I think this horrible COVID thing is very likely to shrink to insignificance in the course of the next year.
And now, what about the transformation to retail? So you said department stores are gone, but there seems to be at work a quite massive transformation of retail. Are we going to go back to Old Town Pasadena, for example, or is the shift to online retail more permanent?
I don't think retailing is going to go away after all. It's been around for thousands of years. But certainly it's been a very difficult place to make money because of what the internet has done. I recently had a friend send me a blue blazer made in China, bought on the Chinese internet, and it cost $42 delivered. And it may not have been a perfect blazer, but it was an amazing blazer for $42. The person who created that blazer gave some little factory an order for 100,000 at once. And those had been pre-sold using the internet. And so it's the most extreme kind of kill all the competitors type of selling I've ever seen. Of course, retailing hasn't coped with something like that. How good is it for Brooks Brothers when somebody can deliver a thing to the internet from China for $42? It didn't look like that bad a blazer to me either. It's amazing. Retailing has gotten very tough. And I think this online stuff is here to stay, and we'll get more and more efficient.
So that could be actually good for the consumer, but more difficult for certain sets of investors, in particular sort of commercial real estate?
Of course, these changes are always bad for some investors and good for others.
So my next set of questions are more on the finance side. So Paul Goodson, who was a bachelor's degree in science in 1975, asked, do you expect the next 10 years to have lower returns in the equity markets than the last 10? He doesn't give us an idea why.
The answer is yes.
And could you give us a hint as to why that might come to pass?
Yes, because so many people are in it, and the frenzy is so great, and the systems of management, the reward systems, are so foolish that I don't think it's going to work at all. I think the returns will go down. Yes, in real terms, the returns will be lower.
What do you think of the combinations of quantitative easing and large fiscal deficit, and where are they going to lead us?
Well, there I've got a very simple answer, and that is, it's one of the most interesting questions anybody could ask. And we're in very uncharted waters. Nobody has gotten by with the kind of money printing we're doing now for a very extended period without some trouble. And I think we're very near the edge of playing with fire.
It is remarkable how much we've expanded the money supply, how low interest rates are, and how little initial response there's been on.
Remarkable is not too strong a word. Astounding would be more like it.
I will let you choose the adjective, Charlie.
It's unbelievably extreme. Some European government borrowed money recently for some tiny little fraction of 1% for 100 years. Now that is weird. What kind of a lunatic would loan money to a European government for 100 years at less than 1%?
For a lot of time, a lot of the policymaking in the world was because capital is scarce. For a long time, the world economies were poor, and since World War II, we've been creating wealth at a very, very high rate. Have the rules changed to some extent because, in some sense, the developed economies are just very wealthy?
Well, of course it's changed to some extent because the developing economies are very wealthy. It's changed enormously. In my lifetime, advanced civilization has gotten ahead faster than any century that exists before, and nothing else is even close. It's utterly without precedent in real terms. It's unbelievable. I watched the whole damn thing practically because I've lived so long. And it's been absolutely astounding. I can remember having a 5-course filet mignon dinner in Omaha for 60 cents when I was a little boy. The world has really changed.
Is the NASDAQ in a bubble, and will it blow up? And do we know when? Is the NASDAQ in a bubble?
Well, nobody knows when bubbles are going to blow up. But just because it's NASDAQ doesn't mean it'll have another run like this one very quickly again. This has been unbelievable. Again, there's never been anything quite like it. If you stop to think about it, think what Apple is worth compared to John D. Rockefeller's old oil empire. It's been the most dramatic thing that's almost ever happened in the entire world history of finance. The other thing that's really remarkable, the last 30 years of China, they have had real economic growth at a rate for 30 years that no big country has ever had before in the history of the world. And who did that? A bunch of communist Chinese. Now that is really remarkable. So if you're studying finance, you got a lot of strange things to account for.